Most people don't fail in life. They simply remain average, not because they lack talent or intelligence, but because average is comfortable, socially accepted, and rarely questioned. Over time, comfort turns into habit, and habit turns into a ceiling that most people never try to break. Staying average doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly, through small decisions, avoided risks, and repeated compromises. No one wakes up and decides to waste their potential. They just delay action, silence ambition, and convince themselves that this is enough. And that mindset quietly shapes their entire future. This video isn't about motivation or hype. It's about understanding the real reasons why most people never rise above the ordinary, psychological, behavioral, and brutally practical. Because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. If you've ever felt stuck, underutilized, or capable of more, but unsure why nothing changes, this video will explain exactly what's holding most people back, and why breaking out requires a decision most never make. The comfort trap that looks like safety. Most people don't stay average because they're stupid or incapable. They stay average because comfort feels safe, and safety feels intelligent. A predictable routine, a familiar environment, and known outcomes create the illusion of stability. The brain loves this because uncertainty costs energy. Growth, on the other hand, is expensive. From school to jobs to relationships, people are trained to avoid risk. Play safe sounds wise, but over time it becomes a cage. The problem is that comfort doesn't scream danger. It whispers reassurance. It tells you that tomorrow will look like today, and for many people, that's enough to stop trying. Average lives are built not through failure, but through repetition without challenge. Same thoughts, same habits, same excuses. When nothing pushes you, nothing changes. You don't fall, you just stay exactly where you are. And here's the brutal truth. Comfort never feels like a mistake in the moment. It only becomes obvious years later, when you realize you've been busy surviving instead of building. Fear of judgment is stronger than desire. Most people don't fear failure as much as they fear looking foolish. The idea of being judged, laughed at, or misunderstood is enough to kill ambition before it even starts. This fear operates quietly, disguising itself as logic and realism. People say they're being practical, but they're actually being protective. Trying something new means becoming visible. Visibility invites opinions, and opinions can hurt, so people choose invisibility. They stay average because average behavior rarely attracts criticism. Nobody mocks you for doing what everyone else is doing. Blending in feels emotionally safer than standing out. Social conditioning makes this worse. From childhood, people are rewarded for fitting in, not for thinking independently. Ask too many questions, and you're called difficult. Challenge norms, and you're labeled risky. Over time, people internalize this and self-censor their own potential. The irony is painful. The same people who fear judgment today will later regret not trying. But regret is silent. Judgment is loud, and most people choose short-term silence over long-term fulfillment. Short-term pleasure beats long-term vision. Average lives are optimized for comfort today, not progress tomorrow. Most people choose what feels good now over what pays off later. Scrolling, binge-watching, junk entertainment, and constant distraction consume time without creating value. None of these feel dangerous individually, but together they quietly steal years. Long-term thinking requires delayed gratification, and that's mentally uncomfortable. Learning a skill, building discipline, or working on something with no immediate reward feels boring compared to instant dopamine. So people postpone effort, telling themselves they'll start someday. Someday rarely arrives. The modern world is designed to keep people average. Algorithms feed comfort, not challenge. The more passive you are, the more entertained you become. Breaking out of this cycle requires conscious resistance, not motivation. And resistance is exhausting, which is why most people never commit to it. Average isn't caused by lack of opportunity. It's caused by too many easy escapes. When pleasure is cheap and everywhere, ambition has to fight harder to survive. No clear thinking, only borrowed opinions. Most people don't think, they repeat. Their beliefs about money, success, relationships, and life are borrowed from family, friends, social media, or society. These ideas are rarely questioned. When you don't think independently, you live on autopilot, and autopilot produces average results. Clear thinking is uncomfortable because it forces responsibility. Once you analyze your situation honestly, excuses collapse. It's easier to blame the system, luck, or other people than to confront your own decisions. So people avoid thinking deeply and instead consume opinions that make them feel validated. This is why most conversations sound the same. Same complaints, same goals, same fears. When everyone around you thinks the same way, average becomes normal, and normal starts looking like truth. Breaking away requires intellectual courage, not intelligence. Average is contagious. If you don't consciously choose your beliefs, you inherit them. And inherited thinking rarely builds extraordinary lives. They confuse motion with progress. Being busy feels productive, but it often isn't. Most people fill their days with activity that looks like effort but leads nowhere. Meetings, scrolling, random tasks, and constant planning create the illusion of movement. But motion without direction keeps you stuck in the same place. Real progress is usually boring and repetitive. It's doing the same difficult thing consistently, even when nobody notices. That kind of work doesn't give instant validation, so people avoid it. Instead, they chase visible busyness because it feels rewarding and socially acceptable. This confusion keeps people average for years. They feel tired, stressed, and overwhelmed, yet their results don't change. When effort doesn't match outcome, frustration grows, but instead of adjusting strategy, they just work harder at the wrong things. Average people aren't lazy, they're just misdirected, and without clarity, effort becomes noise instead of leverage. Lack of consistency disguised as waiting for the right time. Most people don't quit outright, they pause endlessly. They wait for the perfect mood, the perfect plan, the perfect timing. This waiting feels responsible, but in reality, it's avoidance wearing a smart mask. The right time rarely comes because growth doesn't start in comfort. Consistency is boring, unglamorous, and slow. That's exactly why it works, and exactly why people avoid it. Doing something daily with average energy beats doing something occasionally with high motivation. But consistency doesn't give dopamine. It gives results later, and most people don't have the patience for that. Whenever things get slightly hard, people stop and tell themselves a story. I'll restart properly next week. Weeks turn into months. Months turn into years. Nothing dramatic happens, just a silent drift back to average. Average isn't a sudden failure. It's the result of starting many things and committing to none. Without consistency, talent expires and potential stays theoretical. They avoid responsibility by blaming systems. Taking full responsibility is heavy. Once you accept that your life is largely shaped by your decisions, there's nowhere to hide. That's why most people subconsciously avoid responsibility and instead blame systems, education, government, economy, luck, or other people. Blame feels relieving. Responsibility feels demanding. Blaming external factors creates emotional comfort but zero progress. You can't improve what you don't control, and you can't control what you keep blaming. This mindset locks people into a victim loop where complaining replaces action and awareness replaces execution. Successful people don't deny that systems are flawed. They just don't wait for systems to fix their lives. They adapt, learn, and move anyway. Average people, on the other hand, wait for fairness before effort, and fairness rarely shows up on time. The moment you stop blaming and start owning outcomes, growth becomes possible. But ownership is uncomfortable, so most people choose excuses over evolution, and stay average forever.